Welcome to Horse Sense Radio. I'm your host, Christine Rolando, and today's guest is Adam Trenk. Horse Sense Radio, where we do everything that makes sense. Well, that's Horse Sense. And this show features horse people and horses that change the world. Making a difference is what it's all about. Thank you to our sponsor, Blue Arrow Farm in beautiful Pine Island, New York. And the show always features horse people that change the world, horse people that are making a difference in the world, and horse people that are experts in their field, because it's all about getting the best to the show and teaching our audience and learning from our guests. So Horse Sense is here today with, as I said, a very, very special guest who's not only a horseman, but he's also established a premier equine law practice at Law Group in Scottsdale, Arizona. Welcome to the show, Adam. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Christine. Thank you for having me on.
So I'm going to ask you again earlier. Let's pronounce your last name clearly, because as I shared with you in the prep, there's a TV show, and I don't want our listeners to be confused. So tell us a little bit about the pronunciation of your name and the pronunciation of your law group.
Sure. My name is Adam Trenk, Trenk, and I am a partner at the Rose Law Group in Scottsdale, Arizona.
You know, Scottsdale is one of my favorite places in the whole wide world.
It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, at least 7 or 8 months out of the year. Being here during the summer is beginning to lose its appeal, but the rest of the year, it's really beautiful.
It certainly is. It certainly is a beautiful place to be. And I understand that you grew up in the Northeast. When I did a little bit of homework, I saw that you grew up in the Northeast and your family were enthusiasts. They were equestrian enthusiasts. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how you got started in this field as a horse lover?
Sure. I grew up in the great cowboy state of New Jersey. My family was involved with horses long before I was born. My grandfather just enjoyed being around them and grew up riding and exposed my father and my uncle to it at a young age. And at one point in his career, he was even the general manager of the thoroughbred racetracks in West Virginia, Shenandoah Downs and Charlestown racetrack. And so by the time I was born, my family was well entrenched in various aspects of the equestrian lifestyle. And it has always been sort of my primary hobby.
Now, you said the beautiful state of northern New Jersey. Well, I grew up in New Jersey, too. I grew up in Maywood, Bergen County, New Jersey. Where did you grow up? What area was that?
I was born and raised in a little town called Watchung, New Jersey. I guess I wasn't born there. I was actually born in New York City, but my parents moved to Watchung, New Jersey, before I ever made it to preschool.
Well, Watchung used to be, as you said, Watchung used to be huge horse farms back in the day. Now it's changed a lot. I grew up, as I said, in Bergen County, which was, Maywood, Paramus, that area. Not too far, but I do know that area where you grew up, and it was definitely horse country back in the day.
I think probably before my time. By the time, at least as far back as I can remember, it was pretty well, nice suburbs. But we kept our horses in Hunterdon County.
Hunterdon County, sure. I know that area as well. And, people don't realize the state of New Jersey, there are a lot of horses. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's a very, very high per capita number of horses in in the state of New Jersey. And out where you in Hunterdon is really lovely, lovely. I'm a horse appraiser, just so you know. I have a horse appraisal business, Signet Equine Appraisals. I started way back in 1980. And I'll tell you a quick story. I had a bank come to me. I had a big show barn. And I had a bank come to me with 2 Arabian horses, and they said, okay, they're the collateral on a note. So the note was about $250,000, and they needed an appraisal on these particular horses that were the collateral. But the problem was the horses were probably about 600 pounds underweight. And Arabians, because Arabians are big out in Scottsdale for sure. And, they were well underweight. And that was the first time I had got involved with the appraisal business. Way back when, but things have changed, as you know, here in the state of New Jersey, and then you went off to law school. So let's talk a little bit about that whole transition. When did you know that you wanted to go into such a field?
I went to undergrad at Arizona State University. I graduated in 2005 with a small business management and entrepreneurship major, and always thought that I was going to have a career in real estate development. And when I graduated from college, I actually went back to New Jersey for a very brief period, for less than 6 months, and I went to work for a real estate development company in Bloomfield. Um, And while I was there, the gentleman I was working for and my grandfather both encouraged me to take I think it was the LSAT exam, which you're supposed to take
Sure.
before you go into law school. And I don't know why I did it, but I did it, and I scored reasonably well on it. And then as soon as I got the test results back, they both encouraged me to, pursue that I could always come back to a career in real estate if I wanted to. And then the short version is I spent a couple of years, I went back to Arizona for law school. I spent a couple of years in school and getting more involved in sort of community work. I found myself living in the town of Cave Creek, where I still live now, while I was in law school, and ended up involved on the town council and dealing with land use and zoning issues, and the conflict between suburban sprawl and a rural lifestyle, because at the time there were some bigger ranches in that part of the valley here in Arizona. And by the time I got out of law school, the economy was completely melting down in 2010, and hadn't begun to recover from the '08 collapse. And so a career in real estate development didn't really make sense, and I found myself starting a career in law, just
Pretty
as a way really
amazing.
to pay the bills.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing though how you've taken your passion, with the horses and all, and combine them together to do, what you love. I always tell people, I was on a little coaching call this morning with some young gals, and I said to them, do what you love so you never work a day in your life. And that's the key. I think it is to do what you love. And, it sounds like you have a extreme passion for horses. I want to back up a minute. There was somebody in your life, I think, called Zane Davis in Montana. Who was that? And
Yeah.
yeah, what was that influence on your life?
So when I was still in high school in New Jersey, probably hard to imagine, but I had a propensity for getting into a little bit of trouble here and there. And my dad knew that I loved horses and being around them, but he also knew that if I spent another summer in New Jersey, I was going to end up in jail. So he got in touch with Zane's family, I believe actually through Monty Roberts.
Oh, I know
Um,
Monty
and
Roberts. Goodness.
and Zane agreed to take me on to sort of, we call it as it was an apprenticeship, but really I think I was just free labor. And went at my high schools and or my summers in high school, went out and worked with him and did everything from picking rocks and pulling weeds to being a crash test dummy on the colts that he was breaking, and learned a lot about horsemanship from him. And he remains one of my best friends and a big influence in my life. I'm real tight with him and his parents and whatnot. So that was a fantastic part of my youth growing up, was being able to spend those summers in Montana and Idaho with Zane, completely removed from sort of the city and suburban life of New Jersey.
I as I started to do some research on what your life, the steps of your life, and I thought of a simple parallel because I had similar, grew up in New Jersey and always loved those times that I had the opportunity to go to the ranches in those special summers. I spent a little bit of time myself out in Montana at a ranch, and just remarkable, so breathtaking, just such a, so different from Watchung, New Jersey, or Hunterdon County, New Jersey, or Bergen County, New Jersey. But it is a special, special time as you look back on. I had the opportunity to work for a fella, John Kroll, Big Oak Ranch in Alabama. I left, graduated from college, went off to be an equine program director. So I'd get phone calls from the director, and they'd say, "Okay, we're bringing so and so." It would be a young boy that would come to the ranch. We were a ranch for homeless and battered children in the state of Alabama. John had played football for Coach Dye. I mean, not Coach Dye. He was Auburn, for Bear Bryant. But I remember somebody like you that they'd say, "Okay, Christine, here you go. You got this young man." And those were remarkable times that you had with that young person, to watch them bloom and watch them grow. And it sounds like that's what you did at that time. I like the fact you said you were a crash dummy for the young colts. How did you enjoy doing that part of it, or is that something you went into in the cow horse training? Is that a part of it that's a big influence on your life as far as riding wise? Or let's talk about the
Yeah.
discipline of your riding.
So at that point in Zane's career, he wasn't yet doing the cow horse stuff. He was just, breaking colts on ranches. And, having grown up in New Jersey in the 1990s, there's a, certain bit of machismo. You're always trying to prove yourself and wanting to be around horses and stuff. I thought, part of being a cowboy was being tough. And, I never wanted to say no about getting on something, no matter how scared I might have actually been on the inside. So I let Zane put me aboard, horses I probably shouldn't have gotten on and that I wouldn't get on today as I approach 40 and, aches and pains are take on a different form. But I had a lot of fun with it. I learned a lot of lessons. And I kind of, for a long time, would joke that I could ride anything. I don't know that I personally could make a good horse out of it, but I could get along with it myself. Somebody else might not. But I got bucked off a lot. I got dragged a couple times. I got thrown off into water. It was a lot of interesting experiences. But there was at least one wreck a week in my summers there.
But now you're a wise old man, it sounds like. You wouldn't get back on them, as I say. Back then we got on anything. And nowadays you say, the ground's a little harder as we age. But,
Yeah,
they are,
I don't do that anymore.
I don't
I think I
either.
put my chiropractor's kid through college, and I'm not even 40 years old yet. So yeah, I send every new horse I get, if they haven't been saddle started yet, they go to a colt starter before I come home and play with them.
Now, what breed do you have at your farm there now?
Uh, we have a little bit of everything at the house right now. My lady is a horse trainer, and she trains horses production and like movies and photo shoots and things, music videos. The name of her company is Four Legs on Set. So she's got a Frisian and an Andalusian at the house. And then we've got a giraffe cross and an Appaloosa. And then we have a couple of quarter horses.
Oh, how interesting. And horses, horses are amazing tools that they can do, like you said, they can do just about anything if you have the right trainer. So I think this your lady friend's going to be another show. I'm going to give you a holler and get her on because horse training for movie sets is not an easy thing to do. So,
Yeah, she actually mostly does like commercials and photo shoots because she doesn't like to be on set the long hours that movie production requires. But she has had her horses in a couple of things, and I'll let her talk about it more with you. But there's certainly some stuff that you would recognize.
yeah, I'd love to interview her as well. Now, let's talk about right now with what you're doing in your world. You sound like you're heavily involved in many aspects of law, but you've kind of um, I feel it's really smart with the Equine Law Department because, there's very few. As an appraiser, I get phone calls often from, 41 years or 43 years now, time flies, but people will call and oh, I need a good attorney. Oh, and, equine attorneys aren't always the easiest to find. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity to reach out to you and get to know a little bit more about your practice. So perhaps in the future, I'll come across somebody I'm sure that's going to need your services. But uh, you do a lot of land use as well as you do a lot of discussion on whether or not someone. I read about you referring like a lease or a license. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I've just come across that recently. Someone called and they should I lease or I license? Could you explain that?
Sure. So I've been practicing law now for nearing, I guess it's 12 and a half, 13 years. And I started the equine law practice about a year into work